Greetings, friends, fellow citizens, fellow patriots, and even non-citizens, and welcome to this week's edition of the We the People Convention Weekly News and Opinion Podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski. I'm the host of this podcast, and I'm the president of the We the People Convention organization. And this podcast and our website and our text messages and our emails and our donations to other conservative groups are all paid for by the generous donations of those who support the We the People Convention and have for the last 16 years. If you are able to help donate to support our organization, please go to wethepeopleconvention.org and click on the donate link and give what you can. We had many new donors this past week after I announced last week that, donations are down because things are tough, and we appreciate those of you who stepped up. And if you can do that, we'd appreciate that as well. We're happy to be joining you, not in the darkness, early morning darkness of last week, and certainly I hope to have a better hair day than I had at the start of the podcast last week. I'm also using a different computer that has a much higher resolution camera, so all my warts and things and imperfections may become a little more clear to you. So I hope I don't scare you to death here. But thanks to everyone for joining us, particularly those of you who are new to the podcast, but also to those of you who've been with us forever. Thank you so much. I'm going to talk a little bit about some changes and things that I'm thinking of making at the end of the podcast. But thanks for being here. If you're new, just understand that our organization is about action, not just about talk. Yes, we're going to share a lot of information with you in this podcast that will inform you, but we also share a lot of things that you can do to protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, which is what we are committed to. That's our focus, protecting and defending individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity against what? Socialism, communism, statism. That's the fight we're fighting here in our country today. So that's what this podcast is about. We've got a lot of important stories to cover, and I'll start off by saying I'm not going to cover the Epstein distraction. It's what it is. It's a distraction. And I know there's some important things that have to come out there, but this is not the most important thing. But, it was this week. And I laughed out loud when Laura Ingram's show had just done, the first half of their show on the Epstein files, and then one of the people that was on the panel said, yeah, but, this is just a distraction from the shutdown and what the corruption we saw in the SNAP benefits and stuff. Really? Yeah. That's what it is, folks. While they're rushing to vote to release the Epstein files, they weren't rushing to vote to pass legislation like the SAVE Act that would protect our children, right? Or legislation that would prohibit mail-in ballots in elections. They weren't rushing to do anything like that, were they? We're not going to talk about it. We do have some breaking news this morning that is concerning to me, very concerning to me. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia announced on Friday night that she is resigning from Congress. This is not good. This is not good. All right? I know she's a polarizing figure because anyone who speaks out becomes a polarizing figure because the people threatened by them demonize her. Demonize whoever it is. Okay? But Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene announced that she is resigning from Congress effective January 5th. She posted a video along with a lengthy statement on social media explaining her decision, citing the recent fallout with President Donald Trump, who had withdrawn his support of her. I will link in our podcast page at wethepeopleconvention.org that 10-minute video. You should watch it. You should read her statement. Part of her statement was, I have too much self-respect and dignity, love for my family way too much, and do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president we all fought for, only to fight and win my election where Republicans will likely lose the midterm, she stated. That's not a good thing. And in turn, be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me. It's all so absurd and completely unserious. I refuse to be a battered wife hoping it all goes away and gets better. Loyalty should be a two-way street, and we should be able to vote our conscience and represent our district's interests because our job is literally to represent without being attacked mercilessly. I agree with that. This is one of the problems we're starting to have, a big problem we're starting to have in our movement, on our side, where we're canceling our own people because we won't allow for our differences of opinion. This is a real problem. Marjorie Taylor Greene is stepping down from Congress and warning Americans that there is no plan to save the world and no 4D chess being played, insisting both parties have already betrayed the people. She says she never changed but broke with her party over H-1B visas, the AI takeover, 50-year mortgages, ending foreign wars, and demanding the full release of the Epstein files. Greene added that no foreign country has any business influencing the halls of the U.S. Congress. And yet we know that there are many countries that do that, and she's particularly talking about Israel. Why is this concerning? Well, folks, we learned, we've been doing this for 16 years. We saw what happened in the Tea Party movement. At first, they all attacked us. Republicans and Democrats attacked us. And when we survived their attacks and we continue to grow and we continue to flex political power by electing people and getting the people we elected to do things they promised to do us, the next phase is to co-opt us. And so when we elected Donald Trump, we're like, all right, we're finally going to get what we've been fighting for. And then we got nothing because they just co-opted Donald Trump in a heartbeat. I've told this story to you guys a million times. You know, that when a week after the election, he endorses Paul Ryan, who hated his guts to be the Speaker of the House, we knew it was over. Rance Priebus, Mike Pence, these people destroyed. And what did they do right away? What was the first thing they did? They worked with the Democrats to get rid of Mike Flynn, Steve Bannon, all the people that were on our side that helped Trump win had to go. You know, because we're all in this together. We're Republicans. Trump, you're with us, right? We'll help you. All lies. So what's going on now? It's the same process, right? They co-opt you, and then they lie to you and say, oh, we're going to repeal Obamacare, and they have no intention of doing it. And they just wait you out until you just give up. Now, we didn't give up, to our credit. But it also was a matter of they stole the 2020 election because we didn't give up. And we had to fight through that, and as well as go to prison to fight for that. Right? January 6th. And now we've done it again as MAGA. And what's happening now? Oh, wow. Let's kill Charlie Kirk. Why? Because Charlie Kirk was the glue. Charlie Kirk kept everyone talking to each other, brought people together who really weren't that likely to come together. Whether it's RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, whether it's Elon Musk or Tucker Carlson, whatever. Charlie Kirk was the glue. That's why they assassinated Charlie Kirk. And it wasn't some kid, with a rifle. This was a plan. And then what happened after Charlie Kirk? Oh, let's start this fight over anti-Semitism. And, you people who, you challenge Israel, you're anti-Semites, aren't you? But they're not anti-Semites. Tucker Carlson just wants to speak what he sees as the truth, that Israel does a lot of bad things. Oh, you can't say that, Tom Zawistowski, right? And yet, many of you are writing to me saying, Tom Zawistowski, you won't say that. But what's the whole point? What are they doing? Well, let's just get rid of Tucker Carlson. Let's get rid of Megyn Kelly. Let's get rid of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And then we'll just do whatever the hell we want because you won't have the ability to stop us. And that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene's resigning from Congress to me means. We're in a ton of trouble, folks, and we're not going to give up. Steve Bannon is still there fighting the fight. We've got, Charlie Kirk's people are still doing their radio show and Turning Point. But look what's happening with Trump and with the Republicans. Why don't they want to get rid of the filibuster? Because the goal is to pass no legislation. The goal is to only have executive orders that can be turned over like that. We're fighting multiple enemies. We're fighting, the Democrats, the socialists, the Marxists, the Muslims, but we're also fighting the rhinos and the deep state and the people who rule over us every day, who protect H-1B visas, right? Who don't want us to have any say in the limits on AI, right? Because why? They're all getting big checks from all the AI guys. You can do anything. Tear up our farmland. Raise our electric costs by 30%. It's for the good of America, Oh, really? Yeah, is it? Yeah, what happened to America first? So Marjorie Taylor Greene's asking, is it America first or not? Don't get me wrong. It's not like President Trump has betrayed us, but he's being influenced. And the people around him are being influenced because there's trillions of dollars at stake and lots of power. And we, the people, we're going to have to work damn hard to keep our seat at the table. We're going to have to hold accountable these congressmen and senators who want us to vote for them and reelect them this coming November 2026. Are you up for the fight? You better be, because your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity is at stake. That's what Marjorie Greene's talking about. After the podcast, go to our website and click on the video and watch her 10-minute video. It'll be worth your time, I assure you. And then share it, okay? The other story that I had to put in this morning that, was yesterday's meeting with Donald Trump and Muslim-Mamdani. Okay, the mayor-elect of New York City. And boy, it was something to behold. If you didn't see it, you should go back and watch it. Here's the cover from the New York Post. I love you, mommy. Trump bulldozes socialists with kindness in Freaky Friday Oval Office Summit. This was a master class in distraction, in just taking. Everybody expected this to be a clash, and it was a love fest. And it was a sight to see. And so what did Trump do? Well, first of all, it was an unexpected tone. Despite months of public antagonism and ideological differences, the two met in a warm, cooperative manner in the Oval Office, signaling a shift from confrontation to engagement. Affordability and the cost of living were the common ground. Basically, that's all they talked about. We're going to have to lower the cost of living across America, but specifically in New York. And Trump says, if you want to do that, Mamdani, I'll help you. And Mamdani just would not talk about their differences. And if you look at this picture, if you're on the radio or you're listening just to the audio, the picture is Trump's at his desk. He's sitting, and Mamdani is standing next to him. And he looks like a son, with his father kind of talking, and then the son is kind of looking on. It was really surreal. But the big problem was they agree. They want to make New York affordable. What they disagree on is how to do it. Mamdani wants to raise taxes by billions of dollars and give free stuff to people. Trump wants to use capitalism and common sense to lower the cost of housing, to lower the rent costs, to lower the food costs. So while it looked like they agreed, we agree. We both agree that it's affordability. Yeah, they didn't agree on crap, okay? But Trump was brilliant. Even I got a text from someone who is as anti-Trump as can be, who wrote to me and said, I was surprised by this and impressed that he finally was reasonable and talked and came across the aisle to someone on the other side. That's what's Trump's goal. It worked. He's brilliant. He's brilliant. Don't mess with Trump. Don't mess with Trump. But it doesn't hide the threat of Mamdani. It doesn't hide the fact that I talked to you last week that we are going to have to defeat the communists, OAC, Bernie, and those guys, and the Muslims, Mamdani, and the people in Minnesota, and the Muslim extremists. That's who is trying to destroy America. Oh, Tom, you have these wild opinions. Yeah, we always bring receipts. Muslim Brotherhood's 50-year stealth invasion now exposed. Oh, what is this? A new report from the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy makes some uncomfortable claims about a plan by Islamic radicals, especially the so-called Muslim Brotherhood, to systematically enter, infiltrate, and destroy the United States. If this doesn't make Americans sit up and take notice, I don't know what will. Here's the key point of the report. Tamken, T-A-M-K-E-N, is one of the Brotherhood's most important doctrines. It refers to a deliberate process of institutional entrenchment and empowerment. Rather than seeking immediate revolution, it calls for embedding Islamist influence within civil society, consolidating authority inside Muslim communities, and normalizing Islamic discourse in the wider public arena. Tamken is not simply a tactic of survival, it is a long-term program of transformation in which Islamist movements position themselves to shape the environment around them until they are sufficiently entrenched to advance their wider ideological objectives, which is to kill you and overthrow your government. In other words, inject the poison into America's bloodstream to devour it from within. Many of the actors, we should note, may well already be here. See Dearborn, Michigan. Be showing you something about that in a second. See also the last 4 years of the Biden administration, which threw open our border to all the sundry, allowing in millions. And now, as I have been writing and saying since January 2021, we have little or no idea where many of these people are, what they might have planned, or what they are doing right now. That was on purpose. That was the coup. That was the Marxist left working with the Muslims to overthrow our nation. That's why you and I gave everything we had in money, blood, sweat, tears, and effort to win the election just 12 months ago, or we would be done. This podcast would not be airing right now if we didn't win last year, and yours truly would be in prison. That's a fact. That's not my opinion. This report assumes that the barbarians are already inside the city walls, and they might well be. This preface highlights two central realities. First, Islamism is a deliberate ideological movement with a defined history, strategy, and set of objectives. It cannot be dismissed as incidental nor confused with Islam itself. Second, Muslim Brotherhood Islam has a global reach with networks and influence extending into Western contexts, including the United States, where the doctrine of Tamken provides the blueprint for embedding, normalizing, and expanding the Islamic influence. This has resulted in renewed calls for Trump administration to label the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Yes, and I believe that Governor Abbott in Texas just did that this week. We are now 50 years into the Brotherhood's 100-year plan to entrench themselves into key institutions in the United States and other Western societies to undermine and destroy our democracy, Dr. Charles Asher Small, founding director of the group that did this report, told Fox News Digital. This is not simply a political movement, but a transnational ideological project that adapts itself to Western systems while working to undermine them. The Brotherhood has learned to use the very freedoms of democracy as tools to erode it from within, exploiting the tolerances and openness of liberal societies as strategic vulnerabilities. This report lays out how and what must now be done to defend our democracy. Okay? Yeah. We've been telling you that in the Tea Party since our founding. We had people coming in telling us CARE, was coming in and saying the red-green axis. We knew about this. No one would listen to us. No Republicans would listen to us because they were all with them. They were all getting paid by them. America isn't the only place so afflicted. Look at much of Europe, Scandinavia, Germany, the United Kingdom, even Ireland. They have taken in millions of asylum seekers. What a bull lie. Just a lie. Largely from the majority Muslim world. And this will change nations forever. The United States has a few advantages over Europe, though. Okay? Our larger population, our larger land area, and our birth rate, which, while not ideal, is nevertheless better than the nations of Europe. But we should be aware that we are facing a crisis. Not a crisis of civilization, but a crisis of civilizations versus barbarity. In this, we, the civilized world, face the likes of Muslim Brotherhood, Hezbollah, Hamas, and other groups like that. It's a crisis we have to win, or else the world may well be plunged into another dark age. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're headed for. If we don't defeat these people, literally throw them the hell out of our nation, they're going to win. I told you last week about the Glenn Beck saying what happened in Iran when the communists and the Muslims got together to overthrow the Shah that our CIA had put in to rule Iran. Once that was decided and they put in the Ayatollah, they killed all the communists. That's what the Muslims are going to do to all you commies in the Democratic Party if they win. You don't know that yet. We know it. We're going to beat them. They're not going to beat us. And so something happened this week that those of you who are long-term viewers know that we have a good friend, a January 6th, survivor of the DC gulags, Jake Lang, who's done many interviews on our website. If you go to wethepeopleconvention.org, you can just search on Lang and see videos and comments. We worked with Jake, to get the January 6th prisoners out and to get President Trump to pardon them. Okay? But I posted on X this week, we pray for the safety of our friend Jake Lang, January 6th Gulag survivor, and the other patriots who are confronting the real threat of radical Islam to our nation. Understand that we are under attack, and it has been planned for 50 years. And I just referenced that story. Our friend Jake Lang, who I begged him to be careful, and I tried to stop him from doing this, but maybe I'm not right. This is a man, who fought for our Constitution and our Republic on January 6th because he knew the election was stolen, he and other patriots, and that's going to come out. But he understands, and he's a real Christian, and he understands the threat that we face to the Muslims. He went to Dearborn, Michigan this week and burned a Koran, tried to, and spoke to their city council. Now, I've tried to edit this because he uses the F word, and I've been getting emails from people saying, Tom, you swear too much, okay? So I tried to take out the F-bombs in this, but this is what our friend Jake Lang had the courage to do that few of us would have the courage to do this week.
President Trump, send ICE into Dearborn. These people have overstayed their visas. They're H-1B chain migration invaders, and they have come to this country to destroy our way of life. We know exactly your laws in your book about lying to our faces, pretending to be Americans, wearing your suits. We don't want you here. Respectfully, get out of my country. I don't want you here. We don't want you here. I don't want you here. I don't want you here.
That's fine. Sure.
You guys are not us. Fuck out. America first. America only. God bless America. Jesus is king. Jesus is king.
Thank you.
Jesus is king. Jesus is king.
Thank you.
Jesus is king. Jesus is king.
Yeah, you could bet that went over real well in Muslim-dominated Dearborn, Michigan. Later, there were videos posted of a Muslim saying that he deserves the Charlie Kirk treatment. And that may happen. But this is a real war. This ain't no damn game. There was a post by someone named Joel Berry on X, and I shared it. And he said, me and thousands of other young men stepped up to fight radical Islam in the Middle East on the claim that you fight them over there so we don't have to fight them over here. I said that. I remembered that. I think that was why we went over there. And while we fought overseas, while my brothers bled and died for that claim, our government was importing radical Muslims to Michigan, Texas, Missouri, thousands of radical mosques going up around the country, all preaching death to the country we love and fought for, the country my brothers died for, the country their wives gave up their husbands for. And now we have to fight them over here too. I don't think people realize how betrayed we feel and how enraged we are. This was his post. You feel enraged? You feel betrayed? Yeah. The people who did this to us need to be held accountable. Yes. All the Marxists, all the NGOs, all the billionaires, all the people who intentionally brought in an army to overthrow our nation need to be held accountable during what is a civil war. We are in civil war right now, a hot civil war. And I thought it was important that Donald Trump just announced that he ends deportation protections for Somalis in Minnesota. The president eliminated the temporary protected status effective immediately, citing Somali gangs as well as billions in missing funds. President Trump announced on Friday he was immediately rescinding temporary deportation protection for Somalis living in Minnesota. I am the President of the United States, hereby terminating, effective immediately, the temporary protective status for Somalis. Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of the great state, and billions of dollars are missing, he wrote, suggesting that Minnesota was a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity, so send them back where they came from. The Biden administration renewed temporary protective status in 2023 for more than 2,600 Somalis, citing conflict in their home country. The extension was effective for 18 months and included work authorizations. A report produced for Congress in August put the number of Somalis now covered by the program at 750 people nationwide. However, Minnesota is the home of the nation's largest Somali population of 87,000 people. And they are stealing us blind and sending billions to the people of Minnesota particularly. Our members of Minnesota, you should be outraged. They're funding the Somali government, the Muslim government, with Minnesota tax dollars. The Trump administration has attempted to terminate several countries' temporary designation, highlighting the temporary nature of the program. That included ending it for 600,000 Venezuelans and 500,000 Haitians. He said it right. Get out. Get out. And we're going to have to start forcing them out. And we're trying, but what's the left doing? Watch who's stopping us. Watch who's saying, oh, there's no humans illegal and all that. Yeah, the people who are trying to overthrow our country are doing that, folks. So I just wanted to remind you by playing this short video from Charlie Kirk where he addressed the problem. Watch this.
Spiritual battle is coming to the West, and the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low-crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important. We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us, and it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep.
There you have it. It's that simple. It's that simple. Who's going to win? It goes back to the Crusades when the Christians defeated the Muslims. That's where we're at. And we are fighting. But you've got to support that fight. You've got to fight back against those people who say, oh, they're dragging people out of schools. They're taking people out of the Home Depot randomly. That's a lie. It's all a lie. What they're doing is effective. But what your friends and people in your circle, most Americans don't know because they don't want you to know, is how bad you're being ripped off. You know how Trump always talks about, these countries have been ripping us off. You know, Europe's been ripping us off. No one's been ripping us off in America more than people in our government and in our states. Nobody. Okay? So let's go through a few little pieces of information that you may not know. Okay? So the Mamdani is all upset about home prices and rents. Well, Fed official backs J.D. Vance where he said illegal immigration drove soaring house prices. Well, it makes common sense, but you never heard anyone in the media during the 4 years of Biden saying when the housing crisis was getting bigger, they never said, well, geez, maybe that's because supply and demand shows that if you let all these people into the country, you're not going to have any housing, and the cost is going to go up. Federal Reserve Governor Stephen Mnuchin told Fox News that deportations are slowing inflation. A significant amount of the inflation that we experienced for years is because we threw millions of new people into the country without significantly expanding the housing stock and sufficient expansion of other forms of fixed capital. He continued, the truth is that they're living somewhere, and that's a place where other people in America aren't living, and that's inflationary. Cutting down net migration to zero, potentially even negative because of deportations, not potentially, we have negative migration for the first time in like 75 years, is definitely deflationary. Vice President J.D. Vance blamed the high housing prices partially on illegal immigration in a Fox News interview with Hannity. Vance said that 30 million illegal immigrants flooded the country during the Biden administration and drove up prices. I don't think 30 million people came in. I think there's probably 50 million here because of all other things, but Vance is trying to make a point. I get that, okay? I get that. But that's the truth that people don't want to talk about. So here's a little bombshell that Stephen Miller dropped, reveals shocking statistic. 40% of rent-controlled housing in New York City is occupied by the foreign-born population. This is what Mamdani is talking about, rent controls, where we, the taxpayers, using federal, state, and local dollars, basically subsidize your bloody rent, okay? But it's not Americans, it's 40% foreign. In one of the largest metropolitan areas, Miller said, 40% of rent-controlled properties are being lived in by people who weren't even born in the country. What kind of system is this? We bring in people from foreign countries, and then we pay to lower the cost of their housing, while people who are born here have to pay higher prices. So President Trump is reducing net migration. That is what's going to ultimately, along with all these other steps, deregulation, historic tax cuts, is going to bring down the cost of housing and the cost of living. So there you go, Mamdani. That's the problem. You created this problem. The Democrats own all of this. Your grocery prices, your rent, your mortgage costs, your car prices, whatever your problem is, the Democrats caused it, but all they tell you is, it's Trump. He's been there for almost a year and he hasn't fixed it. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? We're going to address that more closely here in a minute. This is, the other thing. Oh, you don't believe the lies. Illegals aren't getting food stamps. Well, yes, millions of illegals are receiving food stamps. Despite legacy media claims, illegal immigrants do indeed receive supplemental nutrition assistance, SNAP benefits, commonly known as food stamps. In fact, it's estimated that millions of illegal immigrants are collecting food stamps. Through SNAP data is hard to come by, seemingly intentionally so. You bet it is intentionally so. A 2024 survey of income and program participation has been analyzed by the Center for Immigration Studies, give us some insights. CIS estimates that up to 4.5 million illegals are using SNAP, even though SNAP is restricted applicants who have legal status. Moreover, illegal immigrants are already permitted to use WIC, which is another welfare food program. Okay? So, why? You know, they said, so we went from like 19 million people on food stamps in like 2019 to 42 million when they started giving it to anyone with a pulse, took off all the work requirements and all that, and then we found out 4.5 million illegals are getting it. And even at $200 a month, okay, that's $9 million a month times 12 months, that's a lot of money. We got to stop it. They're working to try to stop it. Okay? Trump rule may limit immigration use of public benefits, all public benefits. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service has proposed a regulation that would expand the public charge policy, potentially limiting immigrants' access to public benefits. The suggested changes mean that programs such as SNAP could be considered when determining an immigrant's eligibility for legal status, including green cards. The Department of Homeland Security unveiled the proposal, which will be published in the Federal Register on Wednesday. It seeks to rescind the Joe Biden-era public charge rule and broaden the scope of public benefits that immigration officers may evaluate. So taking into consideration, see, they compartmentalize this. Oh, you apply for Social Security, you apply for Medicare, you apply for SNAP, you apply for housing assistance, but they're not connected. They weren't even connected among the states. And that's where you're going to see what's happening when we start to connect the dots beyond the state, how big the fraud is. And so they're trying to do that. And so there's a story here that says these changes now in effect as SNAP benefits resume. So again, Epstein, be distracted, because we don't want to talk about the shutdown that cost us $15 billion a day and gave a hit to our debt and our economy, okay? Don't want to talk about that. And we don't want you, even though we said Donald Trump is starving the poor people, and then we all started looking at the food stamps and realized what a crock that was and what a scam that is. They don't want you looking at it, but we're looking at it. That's why you watch the show, so you can be informed, all right? They're going to change the rules. Let's see, they're starting immediately. They're going to have stricter eligibility requirements. Beneficiaries must meet new work and citizenship requirements in order to receive help from government-funded program, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The new guidance is part of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which was signed into law on Independence Day. SNAP update was supposed to take effect no later than November 1st. It was supposed to take effect already, but it was delayed by the government shutdown. The new SNAP rules are in effect now, and all new applicants must satisfy eligibility criteria. Households already receiving benefits will be reviewed and will have to show they are eligible when they seek to have their benefits certified. This includes work requirements. You're supposed to be working to get SNAP, and millions of people are not working at all. Why? Because why would you work if you can live off the money from your neighbor? Why would you do that? That's called socialism, communism, not capitalism. That's the problem. And so then, during the whole shutdown of the government, we were being told things like, oh, there's 5,000 dead people getting food stamps. 5,000. Yeah. Here's the number. 186,000 dead people are getting SNAP benefits. You heard me right. 186,000. The U.S. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins said Thursday officials are going to start cutting out the massive fraud and abuse within the SNAP program. The news comes after Democrats' government shutdown put some people in danger of losing the SNAP benefits. While speaking about the program during an interview on Newsmax, Rollins said, "Here's the most unbelievable news I have really just over the past few days. That 5,000 dead people, that was just 1 month. The number is closer to 186,000 deceased men and women and children in this country are receiving a SNAP check every month. Now that is what we're going to start clamping down on. 500,000 are getting 2 checks. So 186,000 dead people are getting checks, and 500,000 are getting 2 checks or more. But here's the really stunning thing. This is just data from those 29 mostly red states. Can you imagine when we get our hands on the blue state data and what we're going to find, Chad? It's going to give us a platform and a trajectory to fundamentally rebuild this program. Have everyone reapply for their benefit. Make sure that everyone that's taking a tax-funded benefit through SNAP, that they literally are vulnerable and they can't survive without it. And that's the next step that we're going to take. No kidding. So guess what? We talked to you about the fact that they said, we need to get your data. We want all the information on everyone who's on SNAP in California, New York, what have you. Okay? All right. So they didn't give it to us. They're suing. We can't trust the federal government with this information because it's confidential. What? So guess what? You need to cut it off. You say to blue states, until you turn over the data, you don't get any money. But more importantly, I talked about this briefly last week. SNAP, food stamps, is a federal program. But because it came out in like 1960 or something like that, they couldn't manage it because we didn't have the computers and things we have today. And so they needed the states to manage it. Well, they're not managing it. They're mismanaging it. And they're stealing. And so the federal government needs to take that back under its control and use AI to basically send the information out, get the information, and get the states the hell out because they're ripping us off. They're ripping us off. So while all this is going on, the shutdowns and all that, you got to give Trump's people incredible kudos for just relentlessly just staying on task. This is a story from Houston. ICE Houston arrested over 3,500 illegal aliens during the government shutdown. Just during that time. Although many officers worked without pay, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement continued to arrest illegal aliens in southeast Texas during the 43-day Democrat federal government shutdown. Reports from ICE Houston show that over 3,500 illegal aliens were arrested during shutdown, many who have been charged with or convicted of serious crimes. Among those arrested are murderers, sex offenders, child predators, gang members, and individuals convicted of aggravated assault. Yeah, but don't send ICE to my city. Oh no, we don't want you to get rid of these people. We don't want you to make our cities safer. It's a lie. It's a psyop. And you know what? Fox News and all the other media are just buying into it because they're going to Charlotte. I told this to Nan. Here's Fox News, got a young woman reporter right there where there's protests against the ICE officers. And it looks like all these people are out protesting ICE. But you know what they don't do? They don't go and talk to the citizens of Charlotte to say, what do you think about this? They're not doing that. Right? The head of the Border Patrol or ICE or whatever, I saw him on a show, and they said, how are you being treated with assaults are up 1,000%? Let me drill down on that for just a second. It drives me nuts. Percentages lie, okay? If you were having 10 assaults and it went up to, 100, would that be 1,000% increase? My math's not good, okay? But even if it went up to 1,000 assaults, that's not a huge number of assaults when you've got, what do we have, 25,000 ICE agents out there doing stuff every day? Okay? So they're exaggerating the assaults, and it's making it look like America's really fighting this, but it's not. The guy from ICE said, we go to these cities, people love us. 95% of the people in Chicago, in Charlotte, in Las Vegas, in Memphis, or not Memphis, Memphis, are just so happy we're there. But you're not getting that story. So that's why you and I have to tell that story, okay? Because they don't want you to get that story. And then to talk about last thing on the whole Islam and the overthrow of our country through the invasion, okay? This was a great story because on Monday of this week, the Charlotte Mecklenburg School absentee from school nearly tripled when the Border Patrol came. They first reported as 21,000 students. Now it's over 30,000. Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools records show over 27,000 students were absent Monday, the first day of school since the U.S. Border Patrol agents descended upon the city. It was nearly 3 times the number of absences from 1 week earlier on November 10th when there were 9,600 absences. In district records, more than 30,000 students were recorded as absent on Monday, but that number includes students who are technically still enrolled but do not consistently attend. CMS, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system, has 145,000 students enrolled and 141,684 students who are enrolled and consistently attend school. That means 114,000 attended school. 21,000 students didn't attend because they're all frickin' illegal. What is the burden on the taxpayer in that city to pay for the education for 21,000 students? I don't know. Again, my math stinks, so let's say let's say they're paying $10,000 a year to go to school, where it's probably way more than that. In Cleveland, they're paying $22,000, but $10,000 a year for 21,000 students, yeah, that's a lot of money, kids. They're ripping us off, but we're fighting. We're fighting to stop them, and that's what matters. So the narrative is that Trump's a failure. The narrative is Trump is terrible. So I put this story up for you to share, and I'm asking you to share it. What is the truth about the economy as September jobs report crushes projections? Okay, so what is this about? The U.S. economy added jobs in September amid uncertainty about economic conditions, but job creation levels remained relatively subdued and added to signs of weakening labor market. Okay, now what does that mean? The Labor Department Thursday reported that employers added 119,000 jobs in September when the figure was predicted to be 50,000. It was a huge, crushing jobs report. More than double the number of jobs were created. Unemployment rate, though, still rose to 4.4% in September, which is higher than economists expected. But it was 4.3, and now it's 4.4, okay? The manufacturing sector lost 6,000 jobs in September, a smaller drop than the 8,000 that were estimated. Overall, manufacturing sector is down 94,000 jobs on a seasonally adjusted basis from a year ago. Why? Because the Trump manufacturing boom isn't going to get going until next year, okay? It's in the pipeline. There's going to be jobs and lots of hiring. That's why we're pushing people to join the skilled trades, but it's not here yet. Healthcare business added 42,800 jobs in September, which is slightly higher than the 12-month average of 42,000 over last year. Food services, drinking places added 36,500 jobs, and transportation and warehousing lost 25,300 jobs in September. The labor force participation rate was 62.4% in September, having changed little over the month of the past year. So the number of people who can work, who are working in the United States, is 62.4%. We got to get that up. We got to get more people in the skilled trades. But they got to have incentive, which is good pay. So that's what Trump's working on. But in this article, okay, at WeThePeopleConvention.org, this article, I added another article on the bottom of that one, and it was about it's from Issues and Insights, and it's about a Substack post by a former Clinton labor secretary, and he labeled his post about that your crappy Trump economy. That's how the diminutive former Clinton labor secretary put it recently in his Substack page, and it's a message Democrats desperately want every American to hear. They want you to hear Trump's economy stinks. We have an affordability crisis. Real wages are falling. Trump is making it worse. The recent elections show the depth of despair in Virginia and in New Jersey and in New York. It's true that Americans aren't particularly happy with the economy, and the surveys show that. But it's also true that the economy is doing better, in some ways, much better than Democrats and their handmaids in the mainstream press will ever admit. Consider this. According to the Atlanta Fed GDP Now forecast, the economy grew by 4.2% in the third quarter, which ended in October. If that growth rate holds, it will be on top of a 3.8 gain in the second quarter, which means that from April through October, the economy will have grown at a faster pace than it did in the previous 3 years under Joe Biden. More growth this year than in the last 3 years of Biden. If anyone other than Trump were in the White House, this would be front page news. So would the fact that real wages, that is, after adjusting for inflation, were up almost 1% in just the first 8 months of this year. When Joe Biden left office, real wages were nearly 2% below where they were when he took office. People were making less under Biden. They're actually making real money more under Trump. So too with the fact that inflation has been tamed. While consumers are still feeling the effects of Biden inflation, price increases have at least started to return to pre-Biden levels. The average inflation rate in Trump's first term was 2%. Under Biden, it was 5%. So far under Trump's second term, it's 3%. But what about the sluggish job growth that Reich and others complain about? And the affordability crisis has become the latest buzzword among Democrats. Why is it so bad? Well, for example, both of these, it turns out, are largely blue state problems, not the result of anything Trump has done. Virginia, New Jersey, New York, blue states. For example, 6 of the 10 states with the highest unemployment rates are heavily Democratic. At the other end, 6 of the 10 states with the lowest unemployment rates are deep red. So that's the point. It's their policies that are making their economies bad, not our economy. Not overall, and certainly not in your red state. That's the message you've got to give. Don't blame Trump. It's you. It's your policies. And then, this was another important thing. J.D. Vance touts big wage gains amid affordability concerns. President Donald Trump's policies have helped raise Americans' wages by roughly $1,200 per person, J.D. Vance told Breitbart News on Thursday. Wages continue to outpace inflation. If you go back to the 3 years of the Biden administration, the average American worker actually lost about $3,000 in take-home pay for the year. In the past 10 months of the Trump economy, we've increased take-home pay by $1,200 adjusted for inflation. So that's a huge, huge thing. That's a $4,200 reversal. $3,000 you're losing, $1,200 you're gaining. He highlighted another key point, and this is really important. We are seeing the job growth go to Native American citizens. And what happened under the Biden administration is, to the extent there was any job growth, almost all of the net creation of jobs went to foreign-born. I reported that on this podcast for you. It was clear. You would see the jobs reports, and American citizens were losing 500,000 jobs, and illegal immigrants were gaining 1.2 million, and the rest was going to government. That's all gone. That's all reversed. That's a big deal. The best thing that you can say about the Trump economy is that the American jobs are going to American workers for a change, and that's the thing I'm proud of, said Vance. Average hourly earnings for all employees on private non-farm payrolls rose by 9 cents or 0.2% to $36.67 an hour in September. For me, at age 70, that's amazing to me. I mean, and I know because of inflation and the cost of living, that's probably like when we were making $12 an hour, right? When we were 30, 40 years old. But wow, that's a big number. Over the past 12 months, average hourly earnings have increased by 3.8%. Trump's campaign to deport illegal immigrants is helping push up average wages and push down rents. That double gain may help the administration to modify the much-discussed affordability worries over the next 6 months. You bet. You bet. Now this is a call to action, because this we want. We want this bad. So, big ask of the show. You watching the show this week, I want you to call your senator and your congressman and say, listen to President Trump. This is what President Trump said in the Truth Social Post. The only health care I will support or approve is sending the money directly back to the people, with nothing going to the big, fat, rich insurance companies who have made trillions and ripped off America for long enough. Like I said, ripped us off. The people will be allowed to negotiate and buy their own much better insurance Power to the people, Trump said. Congress, do not waste your time and energy on anything else. This is the only way to have a great health care in America. Get it done now, President Donald J. Trump. And here's a short video clip of him explaining it as only he can.
Going to go down. It went the exact opposite with the biggest increase of healthcare in any country. It's a disaster. And I'm calling today for insurance companies not to be paid, but for the money, this massive amount of money, to be paid directly to the people of our country so that they can buy their own health care, which will be far better and far less expensive than the disaster known as Obamacare. And I've had, I think, great support. I've even had Democrat support. So we want the money that would be going to the insurance company, which is hundreds of billions of dollars. You know, their stock prices have gone up by 1,000% in many cases, 1,000% over a short period of time, because our country stupidly pays them so much money with this Obamacare scandal. So I want the money to go directly to you, the people. And you go out and you'll buy your own health insurance and you'll negotiate different plans and you'll get much better insurance, and you will be an entrepreneur for yourself. So I'm always willing to work with anyone, including the other party. We'll work on something having to do with health care. We can do a lot better. We can do great. So much money is involved, and we're willing to pay so much money to the people. So we're going to pay a lot of money to the people. They're going to go out and buy their own health care, and we're going to forget this Obamacare madness. So with all of the
So there you have it. We're going to forget this Obamacare madness because we all knew it was garbage. And it was, as I talked to you last week, and there's a story on our website at WeThePeopleConvention.org, that it was a giveaway to the healthcare companies who gave 85% of their donations to Democrats to keep stealing your money to give to filthy rich healthcare companies for nothing. Pure greed. Call your senator, call your congressman, and say, President Trump's serious and we back him. We don't care if the damn government shuts down again until you do this. Do not send any money to the insurance companies. We believe in capitalism. Send it to the people. Let us negotiate. Okay? All right, two more stories and we'll wrap up the first half of the show. You may have heard that a panel of judges in Texas, federal judges, used lawfare to basically say, oh, California could do Prop 50 and redistrict California to take away 5 Republican House seats, but Texas, they can't. It was racially biased and it's illegal. Yeah, not so much. The dissenting judge went nuclear on the Texas redistricting case, and if you want to read a scathing dissent, you got to read this guy's dissent. U.S. District Court Judge Jerry Smith has posted his dissent in Tuesday's federal case, which saw a 3-judge panel halt Texas implementation, its newly approved congressional maps for the 2026 midterms, okay? But he just went ballistic, okay? I mean, the people on X were just commenting saying they've never heard a more scathing dissent. U.S. District Court Judge Jerry Smith has posted his dissent in Tuesday's federal case. The majority, led by Trump-appointed Judge Jeffrey Brown, found supposedly compelling evidence that the redrawn districts amount to racial redistricting, racial gerrymandering. However, in his dissent, the appellate judge, Jerry Smith, takes Brown and his colleagues to task over their ruling and their reliance on testimony from supposed experts who are allegedly bought and paid for by Alex and George Soros. I append this preliminary statement to dispel any suspicion that I am responsible for any delay in issuing the injunction and that I am slow-walking the ruling. I also need to highlight the pernicious judicial misbehavior of U.S. District Judge Jeffrey Vincent Brown. Judge Smith begins his dissent. The main winners for Judge Brown's opinion are George Soros and Gavin Newsom. The obvious losers are the people of Texas and the rule of law. I dissent, he said. One of the plaintiff's top experts is Matt Barretto. He's a paid Soros operative and does not attempt to hide it. His CV confirms it. He expects to receive $2.5 million from George and Alexander Soros for delivering these decisions. Soros has been pumping money into Barretto's UCLA voting rights project for years, and this steady supply of money won't stop until 2026 at the earliest. Unsurprisingly, he doesn't, apologize for it. That's just the tip of the iceberg. It does not stop there. The Elias Law Group draws from the Soros coffers too. Counsel for the dissent, Counsel for the Innocent Gonzalez plaintiffs, David Fox, is a partner at Elias, which has collected more than $104 million from the Democratic Party committees and donors, including Mr. Soros. On a silver platter, Judge Brown hands Soros a victory at the expense of the people of Texas and the rule of law. Judge Brown won't tell you that. I just did, he said in his dissent. He said, "This is the most blatant exercise of judicial activism that I've ever seen." Oh yeah, and the Supreme Court on Friday overturned that decision or paused it because it's BS. It's lawfare. It's the insurrection. That's what this is. That's all of it is. That's Judge Bossberg. They're trying to overthrow the government. And they're just attacking Trump because they have to, because he's the main obstacle. So we're going to close with this, all right? And this is the story about the Dem video, which I'll play for you, which basically is treason. None of these traitors can name even one illegal order given by President Donald Trump. Not one. Why are they trying to incite insurrection among members of our military and law enforcement? Ask the Chinese who own them and their commie Democrat Party. Here's the video clip so you can see what these guys said. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. Oh, the weed. Here we go.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
The Army,
Our Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you. We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Okay? Why would you put that message out? They're saying, oh, we're just reminding soldiers of the oath they take and that they get indoctrinated in boot camp, that it's the chain of command. You must accept and execute orders without question. But they want them to question Donald Trump. Well, why is that? Because it's an insurrection. They're not telling these soldiers not to go and follow orders to, blow up ships in the Mediterranean, outside of Venezuela. They're not saying, don't fight wars overseas. They're saying, here, don't follow the orders to round up the illegals. Don't follow the orders that may be illegal, except none of them are, because they couldn't name one. Don't follow President Trump's orders when we unleash our army of illegal immigrants and Marxists in a civil war. Don't arrest us. Don't fight us. That's what they're saying. You know what that is, folks? That's sedition. President Trump said this is traitorous. Okay? But here's the sedition. Under U.S. federal law, the principal statute that addresses sedition is 18 U.S.C. 2384, seditious conspiracy. And in there, it says that if you oppose by force authority of the government and things like that. Now, they're not opposing by force. But here's the important part, okay? Other statutes in the same chapter, this is section 2383 instead of 2384, rebellion or insurrection prohibits inciting, assisting, or engaging in any rebellion or insurrection against the U.S. government. Section 2385 says advocating the overthrow of the government addresses teaching or advocating the duty or necessity of overthrowing the government by force. They're doing that. They need to be charged. Their goal is to overthrow the government. And guess what? You think those geniuses in that video came up with this idea? I want a full investigation into who organized this, who wrote the script. Because guess what? Several of them are former CIA officers. What does the CIA teach you? What did we do in Iran to overthrow the government there and install the Shah? We did a color revolution. And in a color revolution, the first thing you do, and this comes from a CIA guy on Fox who said, we teach our people to undermine the authority of the governing class so that they can eventually be overthrown. It's a color revolution. You just saw Democratic elected officials doing a color revolution. They should be arrested, put on trial, because that's what this is. Will we start to do it? When the hell are we going to deport Ilhan Omar? When are we going to start to charge these people who are mayors of sanctuary cities? There's no such thing as a sanctuary city by law, and they're breaking federal law. When are we going to arrest them and charge them? Until we do, folks, we're not going to win this civil war. That's what you got to call for. You got to support President Trump when he says, investigate these people, because they're trying to overthrow our country. And that's just the reality. All right, we're going to break. I hope you enjoyed the first half of the show. I hope you got a lot of information you didn't get anywhere else, because that's why you watch this show. And we got a lot more in the second half. We're going to take a quick break for a couple messages so I can, just get a drink of water and get ready for the second half of the show. You've been listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion Podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski, and we'll see you after these messages. When you're playing a video, including our podcast, you'll see this little cloud button, and if you click it, it'll actually download the video to your hard disk. And this works on our podcast page as well. If you're playing our podcast, and it's going to be loud, so I won't play it for much, but there's our podcast playing, and you can see this little download button. Okay. The other thing you got to notice on our podcast page is that there's a link here where you can send me a message about this podcast. Hey, it was great. Hey, I didn't like it. What, something was wrong, or here's a correction, that kind of thing. You can use that link. And then these are the stories that I covered in this particular podcast. And you'll see there's links that go to the stories, to the articles that I used in reporting on that. So you can click on that. You'll also see that you can sign up for our emails and text messages, but you can also watch our podcast on Roku TV and on Amazon Fire TV. And these are the instructions for doing that. So this is all on our podcast page, right on the front page where the yellow button was. So if you click there, this is our podcast page. These are the instructions for watching on Roku TV or Amazon Fire. And I watch our podcast on TV. It just feels more comfortable. So you can do that. We're also on Rumble. If you go to Rumble, you should join Rumble. And it's Tom Z at WTPC. You'll see our podcast there. So you can get us a lot of different ways, including on Apple iTunes. And then this is an audio version of our podcast. If you click here, it'll just play the audio of the podcast. It will not, show you the video. So people can, listen to that while they're jogging or, working out, working in the yard, or just relaxing and just want to listen to the audio and not watch the video. And again, this is available on phone, on your iPad, on your laptop, on your computer, any way you want. And you can share this whatever you see. If you're on a page that you really like, and you see an article that you think, geez, I've got to share this article, with someone in my family. You can send them an email by clicking on the little envelope. You can post it on Parler or MeWe. If you click on this, you get all kinds of options, where you can put it on Twitter or Facebook, whatever, which we don't support, but you can do whatever you want. So we ask that you share what you see on our We the People Convention site, and that you get more people to look at it,
because that's the whole idea here, to help educate people, inform them. And then, as I said before, Link, we're not just about talk, we're about action. And in my podcast every week, which is published every Saturday, so if the new podcast usually comes out every Saturday, and in that podcast, I will ask you to do certain things that will help protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. So that's the We the People Convention website. Come back often, use it to be informed, and share it with others. Thanks a lot. The We the People Convention News and Opinion radio program is paid for by donors like you. You can donate to the We the People Convention and support our cause by going to wethepeopleconvention.org or by sending your check in any amount to We the People Convention, P.O. Box 6211, Akron, Ohio 44312. All right, and we're back, and we might have had some problems with over-modulating our sound in the first half of the show. I'm on a new computer, and so I'm dealing with a lot of technical things. So I've tried to adjust that a little bit, so it should be a little better this time. I want to thank you guys who donate, and I just played the donate thing, and you can do that by going to wethepeopleconvention.org and clicking donate. For those of you who donate, I want to ask you a favor. I want you to just take your phone and just shoot like a 15-second video. Say, I'm Frank from Des Moines, and I've been supporting the We the People Convention for X number of years because I love the podcast. I love the information. I love, the causes they fight. Whatever you want to say. Just 15 seconds. 15-second video, and then text it to our email, text it to our text messaging thing where you get the text messages I send out. That number is 833-248-3272. Grab a pen if you want to get a pen. It's the same text. So if you record the video on your phone and then you want to send a text, it'll ask you who you want to send it to, and you should have We the People Convention in your contacts list so our texts and our emails come through. And when you do that, it goes to this phone number, 833-248-3272. I just want you to send me 15 seconds of your comments on who you are and why you think we're worth supporting, so I can share those on this podcast and on our webpage to show other people why they should give. So if you do that, if you're a donor, please text a short video. And if you want, you can email it. You can email it to info@wethepeopleconvention.org. It's a little harder to do that. Everybody's used to doing things on their phone now. So, you can record the video and then email it to info@wethepeopleconvention.org. A little 15-second video. It's not going to be that long. But you can also text it to us at 833-248-3272. And I'd really appreciate that. Now, I said I was going to talk to you a little bit about social media and things like that. I am ready to get off of X. They made a change in the logarithm, and now it's all this lefty crap that I don't really want to see because it's crap. There is no discussion going on, folks. It's all just gotcha, 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 gotcha. It's a waste of time. And now I'm looking at Getter, and I've told you, I've worked really hard. We've worked hard in this organization to get the word out, and we're back on YouTube, and we're back on Facebook, and we're back, on, we were on, TikTok, but they threw us off again. But anyway, why? We're working hard. It takes a lot of time every week to put all these stories we do on our webpage. We share them on Facebook and on, Gab and MeWe and Getter and all these things. And that's great. And so we're informing people. But guess what? Those people never come to our website and donate. They're getting a free ride when you guys are paying for all of this. And I just don't know. I'm really thinking of getting off of those things. So let me know what you think. info@wethepeopleconvention.org. Just say, Tom, yeah, it is a waste of time, or no, I follow you and I think it's a good idea. Because we do have this program we got now where I can post videos on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, and we've been getting several thousand views on YouTube every time we post one of those. We get more for those they're segments of this podcast. We get more views of each segment than we get for our podcast. So, I don't know. But I'm frustrated because I just feel like, we're making this effort, but I'm not sure what we're getting out of that. So I think you can understand that, and I appreciate your feedback. info@wethepeopleconvention.org. Okay? And any other comments you got about this podcast, about what we do, what you think we should do, things like that. So let's get back into it here, okay? This is important stuff. We usually do foreign news, in the second half to start off. So China military reaches war footing for new missile silos and advanced AI warfare system. You got to understand, they have been at war with us for 50 years. We've been letting them buy our politicians, buy our farmland next to military bases, send spy satellites over our country without shooting them down, and to spy on us with 300,000 students. Okay? But, oh no, Tom, you're just they're really friendly. Don't worry about the Chinese. Senator Bill Hagerty, representative from Tennessee, joined Sunday briefing to discuss Trump's administration's crackdown on suspected drug boats near Venezuela and the first large-scale attacks carried out by AI and more. China's military buildup has reached what a new congressional report calls a war footing, with hundreds of new missile silos and expanded nuclear capabilities that could erode America's long-standing deterrence edge in the Indo-Pacific. China has built roughly 350 new intercontinental ballistic missiles and expanded its nuclear warhead stockpile by 20% in the past year, part of a sweeping military expansion that the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission could strain U.S. readiness to counter Chinese aggression. The Commission's 2025 annual report to Congress says Beijing's rapid nuclear buildup, combined with new artificial intelligence-driven warfare systems, is transforming the People's Liberation Army into a force capable of fighting and winning a war against the United States, even without matching U.S. nuclear weapons. According to the report, China has unveiled an AI-powered electronic warfare system capable of detecting and suppressing U.S. radar signals as far as Guam, the Marshall Islands, and Alaska, and is now deploying 6G-based platforms across its armed forces. Okay? That's the congressional report. Are you convinced that we're at war? Are you convinced they're at war with us and that now Trump is finally showing that we're at war with them? They're serious, folks. If we don't show strength, they're going to attack Taiwan, and then eventually they're going to attack us. I wish it wasn't true, but adults have to live in the real world. This is serious stuff, okay? And then this story, wow, I missed this completely, and I'm sure you did too. And this is about the riots that have been going on in Mexico. I saw a Victor Davis Hanson piece on YouTube that I think was AI generated. It looked like they took an article that he wrote and then created a video of him speaking the article that I don't think was him. Very spooky, not good, but the information was good. And he said that one of Trump's biggest wins may be what's going on in Mexico. So let's start with the riots. Riots continue in Midwestern Mexico after a crime-fighting mayor was murdered. This happened like a couple weeks ago. Riots continue in Mexico's state of Michoacán following the murder of a local mayor who had gained fame for his hard stance against crime and cartels. In the most recent riots, protesters set fire to the City Hall building in Apatzingán as locals called for the ousting of a cartel-connected politician from Mexico's ruling party. The issue first began when Breitbart, Texas reported a gunman assisted two other men who shot and killed the mayor of Rupana, Carlos Manza, during the Day of the Dead celebration. Monzo had garnered a massive following throughout Mexico for his hard stance against the drug cartels, including ordering his local police force to fight them head on and exposing state and federal officials who were complicit and owned by the criminal organizations. So of course they murdered him. Mexico's a failed narco state. The president of Mexico is owned by the cartels. By Monday afternoon, hundreds of protesters marched outside the governor's palace in Morelia demanding his resignation. As Breitbart Texas reported, Governor Alfredo Ramirez Bedolas is the nephew of a convicted drug lord serving prison time in the U.S. and the cousin of a second drug lord. Okay? So what's been going on that you and I haven't noticed is that Mexico's governor, or Mexico's president, has been under assault by the citizens who are sick of the narco control. So Trump, you might have picked up some headlines along the way. Trump was saying, I'm willing to send troops to Mexico. We could possibly bomb Mexico directly. And then he moves aircraft carriers into the Caribbean, but they're outside of Venezuela, but those planes could hit Mexico. Well, guess what happened? Funny thing happened. While the president of Mexico said, you're not allowed to do this, we don't want any U.S. interference, now what's going on is they're asking for coordination, joint operations with U.S. intelligence stuff helping Mexico go after the drug cartels. Trump is taking over Mexico and South America from who? The Chinese, who gave them the Mexican drug cartels all the fentanyl to bring into the United States. It's brilliant. And Victor Davis Hanson says, you aren't seeing how Trump understands that he doesn't have to bring troops into Mexico or into Venezuela to get this done. He just needs a credible threat. And blowing up those boats in the Caribbean sure as hell is a credible threat. Man, Trump is going down in history. You have no understanding. We have no understanding. I don't even have any understanding of what an effect. He is remaking the world. Okay? He's remaking the world. And I'm going to show you evidence of that as we go through some of these other stories. This is more proof. Chile's far right rises in Congress but needs allies to reform. These are elections that just happened in Chile. Jose Antonio's cast far-right Republican Party made strong gains in both chambers of Congress following Chile's Sunday presidential election, but fell short of majorities. So he will need to form alliances because they have multiple parties. Most of the gains came at the expense of Chile's traditional right-wing bloc, the anti-establishment People's Party, led by TV commentator so-and-so, went from 1 seat to 14. Chile's traditional parties are in crisis. Their voters have dropped and new leaders have emerged. Cast, the guy that won, is favored to beat frontrunner Jeanette Jara, the leftist government's coalition candidate from the Communist Party, in a runoff on December 14th after no candidate reached the majority need to win the race on Sunday. So the Communist Party is being defeated in Chile. We saw Milei in Argentina. We're seeing this all through South America. The goal is to get China out of our hemisphere. That's what Trump is doing. There's method to the madness. He just isn't like saying, oh, we got to get rid of Maduro because I don't like his last name. It's all strategic against China and the fight with China. And so this thing, again, you got to, instead of them doing Epstein, if we had a real media, they'd be helping the American people understand what the hell is really going on. So here's a story this week, what they covered, but they didn't tell you what's really going on. Saudi prince pledges to raise U.S. investment to nearly $1 trillion. That's a lot of money, okay? Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman told President Trump on Tuesday that Saudi Arabia will be upping its investment commitment to U.S. to nearly $1 trillion, up from $600 billion pledged in May. Trump received the Crown Prince on the south lawn of the White House with plenty of pomp and circumstances as three F-35s and three F-15 jets flew over the White House as he came in, right? Because remember, when Trump went to Saudi Arabia, they treated him like a king. It was amazing to see. So Trump returned the favor. I believe, Mr. President, today and tomorrow we're going to announce that we're going to increase that $600 billion to almost $1 trillion of investment, real investment, and real opportunity by details in many areas, the Crown Prince said. And the agreement we're signing today is in many areas of technology, artificial intelligence, materials, magnets, and will create a lot of domestic opportunities. Okay. So what happens after the Saudi prince leaves? Wow. Trump negotiates a 28-point ceasefire with Russia that he's given Zelensky until Thanksgiving Day to accept. Why now? Why would Russia want to talk? Guess why? Two things. Trump talked to the Saudis, and they're going to blow up the oil market. Russia can't fight without oil money. The Saudis are going to destroy the Russian oil market if they don't come to the table. Trump's going to end the war in Europe with the Saudis' help. Mark my words, okay? That's not all. That's not all. Oh, we're upping our investments from $600 billion to $1 trillion. And boy, Trump approved them buying F-35 fighter jets, the Saudis. And he also, they're buying 300 tanks. Why? Well, guess what? We have more oil than anybody. The Saudis are trying to get out of oil and into AI and things because they know the future isn't oil, it's nuclear or solar, okay, once we can capture the real power of the sun. We don't need to defend the Middle East anymore. Donald Trump is getting us out of the Middle East. And guess who's going to be the force in the Middle East that's going to keep all these crazy Muslim countries under control? It's the Saudis with our help. Trump is getting us out of Europe and making the EU build up their military and fight their own damn wars. And then he's getting us out of the Middle East. Are you excited? Are you as excited as I am? This is awesome. This is freaking awesome. And now, all those trillions we spend in Iraq and Afghanistan and all that crap can go to America and can go to defeating the damn communists and the Chinese. That's what's going on here. Anybody else report that to you? Anybody else report to you what's behind? How come Russia's willing to come to the table now? Yeah, it was a Saudi meeting, folks. It was a Saudi meeting. You heard it here. Share that clip with people. Use our chapters player to share that clip with people. Okay? Huge news. Huge news. I want to play this clip because it just drives me crazy. This was a video that I'm going to play for you of John Thune, the Senate leader. Okay? And he's saying the right things. But listen to my comments. What a concept. Actually doing your jobs for the first time in 26 years. Wow. Congratulations, Congress. The only way you and I ever get any representation in the federal government is when our elected members of Congress negotiate appropriations bills. They're in a committee, the Agriculture Committee, whatever it might be, the Defense Committee, what have you. And the bills are coming up to fund the military or agriculture. And your representative can propose amendments and ideas and can vote on appropriations. When they do CRs, your rep does nothing. You have zero representation in their federal government when they do CRs. Okay? So now, Senator Thune, the big question is, where are the cuts? Doge the appropriations, or you are just phonies. Where are the cuts? When they do these appropriations, okay, where are the cuts? Listen to what Thune had to say about, remember, we only go to January 31st before there's another CR that has to be passed.
have to get done. The defense authorization bill, which has passed the Senate, is now being conferenced with the House. And when that conference is complete, we want to get that across the floor of the Senate. We have another nominations package we need to clear before the end of the year. And of course, we want to get the appropriations process moving again. It got slowed down during the shutdown, unfortunately. And as a consequence of that, we've got a lot of ground to make up. But as you all know, we did pass the 3 appropriations bills, and Milcon VA, Ag, and Ledge Branch. So 3 of the 12 are now law. And those 3 we got across the floor of the Senate before August, which is the first time that's happened since 2018. So as you all know, we are very committed to regular order on appropriations. We think that's the best way to fund the government, rather than having an omnibus bill written in the leader's office or a year-long CR. Going through a normal appropriations process where the committee marks up bills, has input from all the members on the committee, reports them to the floor, and there's an open process, transparent process on the floor, we think is the best way to fund the government. And so the challenge now is to get the next package ready to go. Starting, we've got the defense appropriations bill ready. We tried to move to that during the shutdown. The Democrats blocked it. We want to get on that. We're also trying to clear 4 other appropriations bills to put together a minibus that we could act on here in the Senate. So we're working through those holds, but I would just urge everybody who is interested in actually having the government funded through the traditional appropriations process to try and work constructively to get these bills up on the floor, to let us get on them and have an amendment process and try and process them in a way that enables us to fund the government through the appropriations process, as opposed to, as I said, either a continuing resolution or an omnibus or something like that. Those are not solutions that are good for the country, and they're certainly not good for this institution or for the House of Representatives. We want to do it the old-fashioned way. So that's what we intend to be working on over the course of the next several weeks, and I'm hopeful we'll have more progress to report.
Okay, that's exactly right. We've been calling this forever. That's the way to do it. That's the way to fund government. So, I asked you to call your congressmen and senators, right, and talk about no money from health care going to the insurance companies, coming to you. In that conversation with your congressman and senator, okay, you need to say, now, in the appropriations, you must cut the waste. You're killing us. The dollar is being destroyed by your overspending. There's no excuse. We see the waste and fraud in Medicare, in SNAP benefits, in the military, in every damn thing you guys do. So yes, applaud them. We should never again do a CR. CR should be illegal. You should stay there and work until the appropriations are all passed. And again, that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene was complaining about, that during the shutdown, Speaker Johnson didn't have them in working on the appropriations. Why not? They were getting paid. They didn't work, did they? Why not? There must be cuts. That's the promise you made when we elected you last time. And if you don't do that now, why should we vote for you next November? Good question. Get their damn answer. Let me know what they tell you. Write to me at info@wethepeopleconvention.org. Write to me. Okay? All right. So it's all about getting our debt and deficit down, raising our GDP, raising salaries, right? Getting inflation under control. So we're seeing real action, and Trump was really working hard on education. Sale of student loan portfolio could be next target of Trump education department. This I love. We, the Dems, had us take, when I went to college, I went to Marine Bank in Erie, Pennsylvania, and borrowed $2,800 on a personal loan to help fund my college, and I had to pay it back. That's the way it should be. They took over, the federal government took over student loans as a giveaway to the Democrats and the colleges. And what happened when the federal government took over student loans? They didn't say, geez, is this women's study, degree you're going for going to help you pay back this student loan? Oh, no. Don't ask those questions. Just give it to them, whatever money you need, right? And what happened? Colleges raised tuition like 400%. It was a theft, total theft. We got to get the hell out of the student loan business. Colleges should not be subsidized by the taxpayer for this nonsense. If you have a product that's worth buying, meaning I give you money, you train me, and I get a job that's worth that money, hey, we're all good. That isn't what's happening. The Trump administration is reportedly talking about selling off the federal student loan portfolio, and a move decried by Democrats and faced with skepticism by others. The portfolio, get this, worth $1.77 trillion, is currently held by the government and contracted to loan services. It's not held by the government. It's held by you and I. We are on the hook for $1.77 trillion of worthless fricking college loans. The report discussions between the Education Department and the Treasury Department could be the first step in selling the portfolio to private companies. Advocates argue the consequences to borrowers would be great and the benefits to the federal government minimal, while it's unclear if this move, if this is a move the administration could get past Congress. Yeah, you think? Yeah, it's not good for the borrowers because they'd have to pay back their damn student loan. That's why it's not good for borrowers. That's why we need to do it. This is another thing. So then Trump went even further. The Trump administration announced his plans to shutter the Education Department. Shutter it. That's what Trump said. He said we would get rid of the Education Department. And he's working on it. President Donald Trump's administration took major steps Tuesday in trying to dismantle the U.S. Education Department, announcing 6 interagency agreements signed with other departments that will transfer several of its responsibilities to those agencies. So he got first, the Supreme Court said, you can fire almost all the workers at the Education Department, which they did. Then they're going to say, okay, we're going to give all these things that the Education Department does to the people who should do it, like the Treasury Department. And then you can go to Congress and say, get rid of the Education Department, right? That's where they're working. The announcement was immediately met with intense backlash from Democrat members of Congress who questions its legality, and by labor unions, because the Education Department was created as a giveaway to the labor unions, to the teachers unions, and to the damn Democrats. The agreement with the Department of Labor, Interior, Health, and Human Services and State come as Trump has sought to take an axe to the 46-year-old department in its quest to return education back to the states. The move further fulfills a pledge Trump heavily campaigned on and later tapped Education Secretary Linda McMahon to carry out. The Trump administration is taking bold action to break up the federal education bureaucracy and return education to the states, McMahon said in a statement alongside the announcement, and that's the way it should be. There is no role for the federal government in education under the Constitution. Get the hell out of it. Get out of it. Then I posted this story for all of you guys to read, and I've tried to stay away from all the assassinations to Charlie Kirk stuff and things until there's something really to report. But the FBI lied about Crooks' online profile, and they could have stopped the attack. New evidence shows that they knew. That you could see it online, and there's no way they didn't know. In that article at wethepeopleconvention.org, you'll see new evidence that they found on YouTube and social media, and there's a 13-minute video by Glenn Beck that really explains that they should have stopped this. This assassination happened when it shouldn't have happened. We know that. The question is, who's responsible, and when the hell are they going to be charged? We are all owed a better explanation for the FBI and Secret Service about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump 16 months ago. The president himself remains unsatisfied with the answers he's been given through this about the circumstances, and basically we're all looking for more information. The bottom line is, thanks to an enterprising source who uncovered Crooks' hidden digital footprint, we can see that that Abbott, that after the assassination attempt, A week after Chris Wray told Congress that they couldn't find any online history of Crooks, a week later, Wray's deputy Paul Abbott told Congress that comments posted on one of Crooks' social media accounts appears to reflect anti-Semitism and anti-immigration themes, to espouse political violence and are described as extreme in nature. That's what they said. But new information says that Abbott misled Congress by omission because he left out an entire section of Crooks' online interactions from January to August of 2020 when he did an ideological backflip and went from a rabid pro-Trump supporter to rabidly anti-Trump and then went dark, never seeming to post again. What happened? There's information that shows a communist from, I think it's from Sweden, was interacting with Crooks and convincing him that Trump was bad and he needed to act out. Go to this story at wethepeopleconvention.org and read the article and watch the Glenn Beck video, because it's a cover-up just like all the other cover-ups. Just like Charlie Kirk's murder, we don't have a government that will tell us the truth, and that's the truth, I'm sorry to say. This story broke, and again, wow, we're really surprised about this. Grand jury indicts Florida Democrat House member Representative Phyllis McCormick for allegedly stealing $5 million from FEMA. Now, this is a classic, government, that thing that we saw all of the Obama years, all through the Biden years. It just doesn't end. A Florida grand jury on Wednesday indicted Florida Democratic Representative Sheila Serfulis McCormick for allegedly stealing $5 million in disaster relief funds from FEMA. The indictment alleges she and her brother Edwin and several co-defendants stole the money, laundered the proceeds, and used them to fund her 2021 congressional campaign, according to the Justice Department. Federal prosecutors claim the lawmaker and her brother worked for their family health care company on a FEMA-funded COVID-19 vaccination staffing contract in 2021 when FEMA mistakenly gave the company an extra $5 million. Oh, they mistakenly gave them $5 million, right? That's our government. FEMA, just, under the left, under the Democrats, under the commies who ran our government. Oh, we just sent her $5 million by mistake. Oh, okay. And of course, them being the moral, just the great moral people, they didn't say, hey, you sent us $5 million that we shouldn't get. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They stole it. They used it, okay? And so what is she doing? She's claiming that it's racism. I'm black, and you're just trying to stop black House members. That's what this is. I didn't steal that $5 million. Yes, you did. Go to prison as soon as possible. Please do, okay? This story, I'm not sure how you're going to feel about it, but I needed to report it because it's important. Trump administration rescinds Biden-era rule forcing airlines to pay passengers for delays. The Transportation Department says airlines already have a strong incentive to take care of passengers during major disruptions. Well, I don't know what your experience has been, but I know my family's experience has been that major incentive by airlines didn't get them to do much to help me and my family when we were stranded in Atlanta on Christmas Eve a few years back. Okay? But here's the story. The Trump administration has formally withdrawn a Biden-era proposal that would have required airlines to compensate passengers for disrupted flights. In a notice published in the Federal Register on November 17th, the U.S. Department of Transportation said that pulling back the proposed rule is consistent with President Donald Trump's effort to roll back overbearing and burdensome government regulations on industries like the airlines. And there's a ton of regulations. But I'm not sure about this, repealing this one. The Biden administration issued its final version of the compensation rule in December 2024 in advance to the final approval stage. Under the now rescinded proposal, travelers would have been entitled to automatic cash compensation when airlines were responsible for delays. Passengers experiencing domestic delays of at least 3 hours would have received up to $300, while delays exceeding 9 hours would have qualified for payments up to $775. The rule also would have required airlines, including U.S. airlines and foreign airlines serving U.S. destinations, to adopt plans to provide cash compensation as well as reimbursements for expenses such as meals and hotel accommodations for travel disruptions where airlines were responsible. These requirements would not have been applied to disruptions caused by bad weather, air traffic control failures, or other events outside the airline's control. Well, I don't know. Shouldn't they be responsible if they don't deliver the goods? I don't know. Let me know how you feel about that. I kind of feel like the airlines aren't doing enough. But then again, we got to get the government out of the airline business, including get rid of the TSA, get rid of air traffic control being a government program. In other countries in the world, the airports and the airlines run air traffic control, not the federal government. Again, smaller government is more freedom and liberty and individual prosperity. And that's what we fight for here at the We the People Convention. Okay? This one, is important to many of you because like Nan and I, who are senior citizens on Social Security, we've been getting hammered by the Medicare, sign up for this Medicare Part B plan, sign up for that. And the Medicare Part B cost jumped 10%, which is lower than they predicted, but it's still higher than your COLA, your cost of living increase for Social Security. So Medicare costs are going up 10%, but your Social Security is going to go up 2.8%. That means you lose. Retirees who rely on Medicare Part B for the majority of their medical needs will see nearly a 10% increase in monthly premiums for 2026. Let's see. The Part D deductible jumped to $202.90 per month. That increase is in addition to a spike in annual deductibles for medical Part B beneficiaries, usually paid in full before Medicare benefits kick in. So they deduct from our Social Security checks, for those of you who aren't on Social Security, they deduct to pay Medicare from your Social Security check, and that's going to go from $202 per month. It jumped to $202 per month from what it was. So it's all because we're paying way too much for health care. And once Trump starts to get the cost of health care by using capitalism instead of Obamacare, government health care, to negotiate your health care, prices at hospitals and insurance are going to go down because we're paying the highest in the world and getting worse care. Okay? So just know that your costs are going up because of that, and that's why you got to support these changes to health care. That's why you got to call your congressmen and senators and say, we don't want you sending money to the evil healthcare companies. Send them to the people to negotiate their own healthcare coverage. Okay? That's why you're making that call. This is a wacky thing, but it's just, I don't know. This has always stuck in my head over the last 16 years of doing this podcast because it was so absurd. Trump administration to wash away Biden-era water rule after years of contentious debate. This is about the waters of the United States, WOTUS, where back in Obama time and all throughout Trump's first term and Biden's term, the federal government had this EPA ruling that a dry ditch on your farm or on your property where you're building a home, it's a dry ditch. But when it rains really hard, it gets water in it, and the federal government got the courts to rule that that is under their control, that they can set the rules about waterways of the United States. It was all bullcrap. And finally, it's going to get thrown out by the Trump administration. The Environmental Protection Agency announced Monday that it's moving to update the definition for the waters of the United States WOTUS rule, citing durability, economic opportunity, and state sovereignty. Unveiled at EPA headquarters in Washington, D.C., the agency said the proposed rule aligns with the Supreme Court's May 2023 Sackett ruling, replacing the Biden EPA and Army's amended 2023 definition of what is a waterway by saying it's the states that got to regulate that. We got to get that out. The federal government needs to get out of it. And so the left and the environmental wackos are saying, you're going to have polluted water everywhere because no one's going to be regulating them. There's no water that's not going to be regulated under this. They're just changing who regulates it, and they're putting it in the hands of the state and your local county where it should be. Again, we're fighting these massive wars, and they're distracting you with Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. But serious stuff is being done every day by the people you fought to put in place. And you got to know this and talk about it and share that, because it affects your individual liberty, freedom, and prosperity. This does. It was horrible what they were doing to homeowners and farmers with that. Okay, so now I usually have more feel-good stories at the end of the podcast, but I don't this week. And so these next two stories are really serious and important, and I wanted to bring them to your attention because nobody wants to talk about it. But let me go into this with you, and then hopefully you will watch these. You will go and read these and share them. We have made another huge social mistake by legalizing sports betting in the United States. And the evidence is out. The evidence is clear as a bell, just like with marijuana. And if you go on WeThePeopleConvention.org, search on marijuana, you'll see the evidence. They lied to us about medical marijuana. They lied to us about, it's not harmful. It's like alcohol. No, it's not. Marijuana should be illegal, okay? But that's another story. This story is about sports betting, okay? In 2018, the U.S. Supreme Court decided Murphy versus the National Collegiate Athletic Association. A fractured court led by a conservative majority held that Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act of 1992, signed into law in the final months of the Bush presidency, was unconstitutional. That act bans sports betting. The practical effect of the Murphy decision was that sports gambling, the legal practice of which has been mostly confined to Nevada casinos, became ubiquitous. It was all over. A few weeks after the court's decision, Delaware became the first state other than Nevada to legalize sports gambling. Today, sports gambling is legal in 39 states plus Washington, D.C., and it's noticeable. It has become almost impossible to watch a football game or scroll through a social media post without being assaulted by seductive advertising of sports gambling industry. Much like the failed social experiment in marijuana, which commenced in earnest with Colorado's decision to legalize recreational use in 2012, America's experiment in legalized sports gambling has not gone well. On the contrary, it has been nothing short of disastrous for our nation's moral fabric and the legions of financially vulnerable young men who fall prey to the industry's temptations. According to research tracking 7 million U.S. adults, states with legalized online sports betting have seen a 25 to 30% increase in bankruptcy filings and an 8% rise in debt sent to collections compared to states without such easy access. Meanwhile, a survey of sports bettors found that 1 in 4 say that they've missed a bill payment because of gambling. That's 25% have missed a bill payment, and 35% say they have debts they directly attribute to sports wagering. Another survey found more than half of sports bettors carry a credit card balance month to month, and it goes on and on. The human toll is staggering. Countless young men, already increasingly dependent and despondent and disconnected from faith, family, and community, are now glued to their phones, ignoring dating, ignoring friends, ignoring family, are now glued to their phones, obsessing over point spreads. The event meant to bring us together, like the Super Bowl or March Madness, have become bastardized into vehicles for ruinous addiction. That's so true, because you're not cheering for the team anymore. You're cheering for that guy to get a hit or score a run or run for so many yards. You're cheering for different players in the same game. It's dysfunctional. It destroys sports, which is critical to society, to shared experience. Betting lines crawl across sports broadcasts. ESPN anchors often sound more like casino hosts than sports analysts. A beloved national pastime that once fostered civil unity and wholesome escape has thus become yet another arena for atomistic consumption and decay. Just as bad, the innocence and integrity of sports itself has been hopelessly corrupted, as recent high-profile legal cases involving both the NBA and Major League Baseball have made abundantly clear. Why did we do this? It's a self-inflicted wound. It's a self-inflicted wound, and I don't want to hear about your rights. You have a right to do it. Society has a right. Right? That's the difference between freedom and liberty. Freedom is your right to do things. Liberty is what keeps society from having your rights interfere with other people's rights. This is not good. This is bad. We need to start talking to your state legislators about making it illegal again or putting more constraints on it. I think I told you guys about what happened here in Ohio. I found out that here we have a state-sanctioned vice, legal gambling, that the state of Ohio gave certain people the rights to perform that, just like the lotteries, because the state got a cut of their money. And guess what happens in Ohio? If you win, you're not allowed to play. If you're good at betting, if you pick the winners and you win, it is legal in the state of Ohio for them to say, you can't bet. Wow, that's really moral. Okay? We got a big problem. You need to raise this. You need to share that story with people and talk about it because it's hurting us. And you know what else is hurting us? This story. This is just not good. Across America, young boys and men are being destroyed by predatory algorithms. I've talked about social media for young people, okay, and we're fighting to get it banned. But this is worse. As Americans, we like to think our boys are tough and resilient, but online, they are the most vulnerable and most overlooked. The internet has become a digital trap for millions of young men and boys. The addictive features programmed into smartphones, social media, video games, and online pornography are intentionally designed to hook kids at an early age. In the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination by suspected shooter Tyler Robinson, a Wall Street Journal columnist astutely noted political violence as a problem, but so is the autonomized culture in young men retreat into confused inner worlds and virtual realities where they can be as addictive and as destructive as any drug. Across America, young men are drifting into digital isolation where algorithms, pornographers, sexual predators, and toxic role models, not parents or mentors, manipulate their mindset and attitudes and ultimately shape who they become. Like Crooks, the shooter, the evidence is clear. Social media caused him to shoot at President Trump. Those algorithms are now even more powerful. A common sense media survey revealed that algorithms, not user intent, are the primary driver of boys' exposures to posts about masculinity. 68% of boys who see such material online say it started showing up in their feed without them searching for it. So Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram, are all using algorithms. In other words, they're searching what you search on, and they're feeding you things that they think you would consume. Not because it's good for you, but because it's good for them. Because they make money selling advertising to you in these algorithms, okay? So it's intentionally harming not just children, but all men. Toxic influencers online exploit boys searching for identity, feeding them anger, distorted ideas about women, and extreme behaviors amplified by social media algorithms. Social media video games and online pornography are engineered for compulsion, addiction, and control. They hijack attention and reward obsession, and boys are the biggest consumers. Violent video games can be especially problematic for boys since they use the same first-person shooter technology to use and train military and law enforcement to kill. Like AI, which is fighting, okay, the AI is actually begging for regulation. They are. Go look it up. Because we need regulation to make sure AI doesn't destroy us. We didn't do it with the iPhone. We didn't do it with Facebook. We didn't regulate. We let them not even be sued. We gave them the Section 230 exemption so they could hurt our kids. And they have destroyed a generation of our kids. And we let them. And the people you elect, let them. When are you going to hold the people you've elected accountable for letting them destroy our children? I'm asking you to share that story, this one right here, okay, at wethepeopleconvention.org. You just use the share links on the page and send the story to your representative and say, what are we doing about this in my state? The sports gambling, send that article to them. Just forward it. And then ask, what are we doing? This is clearly a problem. If you don't ask, who the hell is going to do anything about this? Right? That's what we do here. You're not watching this for entertainment purposes. You're watching this for information purposes. It's up to us to defend our family, our community. It's up to us to protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. That's what I'm asking you to do. That's what you got to do, or we're going to lose it all. We're going to lose it all, friends. Believe me, trust me. I think I've given you enough evidence in this podcast to prove that. Okay? All right. We're never going to forget that Charlie Kirk taught us. We will fulfill his mission by completing America's spiritual revival. You saw the video I played at the beginning where he talked about we are being attacked by the communists and the Muslims, and it's up to the Christians to rise up and defeat them. That's the truth. That's your goal. Every day when you get up, you know what you got to do. You've got to live your Christian faith, and you got to protect it, and you got to fight anyone who challenges it. That's what you've got to do. We ask that you tell everyone about this podcast, and that you go to our website, and that you share using our podcast page the chapters player, where you can just look down the whole list of stories and go right to the story that you're most interested in. Tell other people about it. Write to me at info@wethepeopleconvention.org and tell me what did you like about the podcast? What didn't you like? Where do you disagree? I've asked you for feedback about getting off of all social media because I'm not sure we're getting anything out of it. And I want to remind you guys, the donors, if you donate, do a short video and either text it to me or email it to me. You can text it to 833-248-3272, or you can email it to info@wethepeopleconvention.org. Tell us why you support us so that I can share that with others. Okay? I'd really appreciate it. All right, we're wrapping up the show for this week. We really appreciate you being with us. We hope you have a good week. I will do a podcast after Thanksgiving. But because this is Thanksgiving week, I'm wishing you the best. It's my favorite holiday. It's got the least baggage. It's just fun for everyone. You're going to have family and friends around you, I hope. If not, make an effort to meet up with some family and friends or high school friends or whatever. It's about coming together. And we're going to have a great meal. We're going to watch some football. We have a tradition in our family where we make Nan and her sister and her best friend make gingerbread houses. And then on Thanksgiving, we decorate them. All the kids and all the adults decorate gingerbread houses. It's the coolest thing ever. Do things like that. Have fun. That's what America is about. That's why you fight the fight you fight. So I'm wishing you, and Nan's wishing you, a very, very happy Thanksgiving. We will be back after Thanksgiving on next Saturday, and we hope you'll be here to join with us. We appreciate your love, your good wishes, your support, your prayers, and we pray for all of you as well. May God bless each and every one of you, and may God continue to bless our great nation, the United States of America. See you next week. Bye now.
Can you see? intertwined.